Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Wednesday, November 16th, the year of our Lord 2022. I think it was last Friday the Biden administration named the new commissioner. Remember that Rettig, the commissioner, his term was over on November 12th. And then now there's an interim. We'll talk about all that. So let's get to the show. That's what we're going to talk about today. Won't you join us? Now, is that this gentleman's name, the new commissioner, is Daniel Werfel. They call him Danny. He's 42 years old. He's been in Washington forever. How could that be? He's only 42 years old. I don't know. But let's find out. Let's find out about him. He's a Bush guy. Anybody they put to the IRS, I don't. They're not conservatives. Let's put it that way. So let's find out what's going on here. See what story do we want to start with? Let's start with this one. Let's do that. Let's start with this story. Biden nominates Daniel Werfel as next IRS chief. An ex-IRS acting commissioner. He was a commissioner. There's a whole history of him here, and we'll get into that. Werfel is a global leader of public sector practice at Boston Consulting Group. Go figure. You go from government to big consulting groups. Daniel Werfel, a former acting commissioner of the IRS during the Obama administration and a current managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group, has been nominated by President Biden as the next head of the IRS. I had heard that he was now in Office of Management and Budget, OMB. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. People familiar with the search had said that Biden administration wanted an IRS commissioner with deep management and business experience as opposed to a tax attorney. And what's wrong with tax attorneys? So I ask. Like outgoing IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig, who can, maybe that's what's wrong with tax attorneys, who can help to transform the sprawling agency that possesses more than 150 million individual tax processes more than 150 million individual tax returns each year, Bloomberg reported in September. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in a statement on Thursday that Werfel fits the description. I strongly support President Biden's intent to nominate Daniel Werfel to serve as the next commissioner of the IRS, she said. Danny's prior service under both Democratic and Republican administrations, his deep management experience, and his work directing significant transformation efforts make him uniquely qualified to lead the agency at this critical juncture. No matter who they introduce, doesn't always seem like exactly the same introduction, no matter what their background. After decades of underfunding, which is all BS, it's never been underfunded. And before they gave them $80 billion, they already had $14 billion a year. $14 billion a year. And that wasn't enough. After decades of underfunding, the IRS now has the resources it needs to improve services for taxpayers and modernize outdated technology and infrastructure. Danny's deep commitment to fairness and making sure government works for all will also be invaluable as we improve the taxpayer experience and eliminate a two-tiered tax system. Really? Do you really believe that? In addition, Danny's leader, any guy named, they call him Danny. Can we call him Daniel? In addition, Danny's leadership will be critical to effectively and efficiently implement the clean energy tax incentives that will increase production in the United States and lead to significant job creation. Where does she get that idea? I keep hearing this. Oh, we're gonna lead the world in renewable energy. So many jobs are going to be created. As many as that are going to be lost, like they're already doing in coal and oil and all of that. No, the answer is no. I urge the Senate to act swiftly to confirm Danny and look, why can't we call him Werfel or something? No, I call him Danny, and look forward to working with him in the years ahead. If his nomination is approved by the Senate, Werfel will take over an agency that just received an influx of funding thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember, I have to laugh every time I hear that word, that phrase from that act, because it's a joke, which was passed by Congress in August. The $80 billion in funding the IRS will receive over the next 10 years will be used to hire more personnel, including tax agents and customer service representatives, and to upgrade the agency's antiquated technology. Why is it antiquated? They've had many initiatives for technology with the IRS. This is not the first time. Earlier in his career, Werfel worked for the federal government under both Republican and Democratic administrations. Well, that gives you a lot of credibility. He began his career at the Office of Management and Budget in 1997 during the Clinton administration as a policy analyst in the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. He continued his work at the OMB during the Bush and Obama administrations. So see, he was there for Bush, so he must be a conservative. 1997, what was that? 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Right now he's 42, I believe. So 20 years ago, he's in his 20s. After serving as OMB Deputy Controller, Werfel was nominated by President Obama to be Controller of the OMB in 2009, a post he served in for 4 years before becoming Acting Commissioner of the IRS on May 22nd, 2013. So that is 10 years ago. So he was 32 years old. Werfel followed Stephen Miller as acting commissioner of the IRS after Miller resigned in May 15th of that year. Why did Miller resign? Let's figure that out. Miller departed after the IRS admitted to improperly scrutinizing federal tax-exempt status of some conservative groups. So he quit, but nobody else. Lois Lerner wasn't punished. Werfel stayed on as acting commissioner until John Koskinen was nominated and confirmed as IRS Commissioner later in 2013. Werfel joined Boston Consulting Group in 2014 and is currently the global leader of the consulting firm's public sector practice. He previously led this public sector practice in North America. If confirmed by the Senate, he will succeed Rettig, whose 4-year term comes to an end this week. I believe it already came to an end. Rettig said in a statement today that his time as commissioner has given me an even deeper appreciation of what our workforce is capable of achieving. He continued, I have been constantly amazed at the accomplishment of IRS employees during what has been a challenging and historic time for our nation. Time and again, I have been seeing them deliver for taxpayers under tight time frames and difficult circumstances. And that's why they only answer 1 in 10 phone calls, or maybe it's 1 in 9 phone calls. And that's why they all took 2 years off. And that's why they've been behind. They took 2 years to process tax returns because of the great work that he's done. Unbelievable. Responding in a manner that demonstrates the importance of every American to the IRS and the IRS to every American. Yeah, every American knows how important the IRS is. They're important in their life. People should know that this important work to transform and improve the agency will be guided by employees dedicated to public service and delivering for our great country. Until Werfel's confirmation, IRS Deputy Commissioner Douglas O'Donnell will serve as acting commissioner. So there you go. It sounds like all BS to me. It's the same people doing the same thing with more money, twice as much money. Former acting commissioner Daniel Werfel nominated to lead IRS. I think this has more background for him. President Joe Biden announced his intent to nominate Danny Werfel to serve as commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig's term formally ends on November 12th. Doug O'Donnell, the IRS Deputy Commissioner for Services and Enforcement, has been selected to serve as acting IRS Commissioner. Since serving the IRS in 2018, I've been amazed at the dedication and commitment that IRS employees bring to serve our nation, Rettig said on October 28th. Doug shares that spirit, and I know the IRS will be well positioned going forward with him acting as acting commissioner. Werfel is a public and private sector leader who has served under both Democratic and Republican administrations across more than 15 years of government service. Again, I think he's 42, 15 years. 32, he's in his 20s. Werfel served President Barack Obama and President George W. Bush to lead some of the government's most complex management challenges as the Internal Revenue Service Acting Commissioner and Office of Management and Budget Controller. In the wake of the Inspector General report alleging various forms of mismanagement and bias in the determination of tax-exempt status for nonprofit organizations, President Obama appointed Werfel to serve as acting commissioner of the IRS in 2013. Werfel provided immediate stability to the IRS. Really? Effectively responded to numerous congressional investigations, successfully launching the Affordable Care Act technology. Do you remember the technology of the Affordable Tech? They spent $1 billion and it crashed. Remember that? And he was in charge of that? Well, that's reassuring, isn't it? And navigated the IRS through a multi-week government shutdown. At the end of his tenure, both the majority and minority leaders of the Senate Finance Committee publicly recognized his contribution and performance. As OMB controller, Werfel successfully led a cross-government effort to ensure that the $787 billion American Recovery and Reinvestment Act was implemented transparently. Do you really believe it was implemented transparently? Really? And with minimal fraud. Minimal fraud. With the government agencies, minimal fraud is a lot of fraud. He also led the government-wide efforts to prepare for and implement the budget sequester of fiscal year 2013. Werfel played a key role under the Bush administration in the implementation of the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008, overseeing the efforts of the Office of Financial Stability to achieve a clean financial statement audit in its first year of existence. Because remember, in 2008, it was really stable. We had a really stable government then. Werfel, in our finances. Werfel has spent the last 9 years as Boston Consulting Group, where he helped launch their U.S. public sector practice and made millions, I'm sure. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Industrial and Labor Relations with honors from Cornell University, a JD with honors from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and a Master of Public Policy from Duke University. Werfel lives in the District of Columbia with his wife and 2 children. Now, I don't begrudge the gentleman. I would say that about any man that got this job, because it's all going to be inside government people. That's who gets these jobs. He's been inside the government since he's in his 20s, right out of college, and that's what he's done now. Well, he worked for the Boston Consulting Group. Yeah, in the lobbying in government in Washington, D.C., working with his old pals. It's the same thing over and over again. But again, it's the same. You can just put this on the next guy that comes in, the same introduction. Different schools maybe, but same introduction. How he's done this and that, and is the perfect fit. So anyway, that's what it is. I don't begrudge the man. God bless him. I wish him well. I hope he doesn't get all the money that he's asking for, but I wish him well. So thanks so much for joining us here today. It's interesting read, I think. Remember, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. I need your help to get this information out. So help us by liking and subscribing our content. And if you are facing, if Werfel's IRS is coming after you in an efficient, effective manner, after all, well, then you need help. If you owe the IRS money, if you have unfiled tax returns, if you need help to lower your tax burden, you should give us a call, 312-664-6649. Get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. I will pay for the printing, and I'll ask you to pay for the shipping and handling. Fair deal, I think. There's lots of reports that go along with that, free reports, all free. The book's free, the reports are free. I ask you to pay for shipping and handling. So go to freeirsbook.com. So thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. God bless you.